Thinking about moving to Utah? Well, you've got some things to consider because this place is as unique as it is beautiful, sometimes in ways that you might not expect.
It's a state that stands out for all the right reasons, but there of course are going to be some quirks that come with it too. Whether you're going to love it or hate it really depends on how ready you're going to be for those changes.
If this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything about living, eating, sleeping, working, and playing in northern Utah, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about the current market here in northern Utah.
We are Sloane Kim Petersen with the Petersen Group, and we've been in the business for 10 years, and every day we help people just like you looking to buy, sell, relocate, and invest here in northern Utah, and we absolutely do love it. Whether you're looking in 9 days or 90 days, go ahead and give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. All of our information is in that description box below, so we can help you make that smooth transition here to northern Utah.
First up, let's talk weather. Now, we've done whole videos on this topic because there is a lot to consider for each season, so definitely check those out if you want to deep dive into what the Utah weather looks like. Now, that being said, Utah is famous for its 4 seasons, and the outdoor opportunities here are next level. From snowy winters to warm summers, there's always something to do. But the winters, they're no joke. If you're coming from sunny California or the desert heat of Phoenix, the cold might hit harder than you expect. Now, that being said, Utah's dry climate makes the cold less biting and the heat more tolerable. Trust me, 30 degrees here feels way better than 30 degrees in somewhere like Michigan. And summers, way more bearable than the sticky, humid heat of Houston or the South. Just make sure you're planning for both snowstorms and sunburns, or Utah might not be for you.
So speaking of the snow, let's get into Utah's dry air and high altitude. If you're moving here, get ready for skincare routine overhauls. Your hands, lips, and hair are going to notice the difference for sure. Chapstick and lotion are going to be your new best friends, and while altitude sickness could be a thing when you first arrive, your body's going to of course adjust after just a few weeks. For visitors though, that first hike might leave you breathless, literally. Some other issues that might come up from it being so dry here are going to be sinus and maybe other breathing issues, as well as different allergies that you might just not be used to. Be prepared for purchasing some things like air purifiers, humidifiers, and then sinus aids like neti pot and saline solutions and things like that.
And to be quite frank, those things you may never get used to. So I did grow up in Denver and moved here, and I developed allergies here. I had never had them before. And right now my eyes look really squinty because we are having such a dry winter this year. And so you don't get used to those. So you do have to find things to accommodate, like the neti pot and humidifiers and air purifiers. And those things do work. Just make sure that you are ready to maybe use things that you never had to before.
Especially if you're out spending time in the outdoors, because that's just going to amplify, everything as far as the dryness and all that kind of stuff goes. So Utah is the second driest state in the whole nation. A lot of people don't realize that because, we have all the red rock in southern Utah, but not up north, but we are basically still a desert up here.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a good point because a lot of people don't think that you get snow in a desert, but you still do. We are technically a desert, and so just be prepared for that dryness. But let's focus on some of the weather perks. Utah is an outdoor lover's dream. Hiking, skiing, snowboarding, mountain biking, whatever gets you outside, we've got it. The landscapes are ridiculously diverse, from snow-capped peaks to red rock deserts. Outdoor adventures are baked into the culture here. So if you're not into getting outside, you might miss out on what makes life in Utah so special. These activities are even more amazing when done during the fall or spring months, when the weather is at its peak perfection, around that 70-degree mark with beautiful pops of color in the landscape. If people don't necessarily move here for the outdoor activities, they still end up becoming more of an outdoor enthusiast once they do live here. And that is both healthy and awesome to see people get into that.
It's kind of funny because we just helped a couple move here from the Kansas City area, and they were talking about that just when we met them again, for dinner not that long ago, is that, they've been out hiking and doing all the things that they don't usually do, and so they haven't been to the gym since they moved here, and they're a little concerned about that. However, they've actually lost weight since they've been here just because they're so active. So Utah does invoke, an active lifestyle just because there's so much to do. You don't even realize you're even working out. So now on to something you might not expect, or maybe you do, considering all the jokes that are made about Utah. But that's of course going to be our religion here. So Utah does have deep roots in faith, thanks to the Mormon pioneers who settled here. Even though the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are now a minority in the state, their values still shape much of the culture here. You don't have to be religious to live here, of course. People are really friendly and welcoming regardless, but the influence is definitely going to be noticeable. Sundays are a lot quieter with many businesses closed, and community life often reflects those traditional values. You'll notice that the church often owns a lot of the different things that make up communities here, and it does bring about that nice community feel, and that's something that most people do really like about living here in Utah, regardless of if they're of the LDS faith.
So let's talk about housing and traffic. Utah's growing fast, like really fast. With all the new folks moving in, housing costs have climbed and traffic has followed. Some areas like Lehigh or Saratoga Springs feel the growing pains more than others. Even north up here, we're seeing heavier traffic come further and further north. Like, for example, before we might have heavy traffic throughout the Roy area and it would kind of stop there, like the base. Now it's all the way up to North Ogden and beyond. So traffic has really gotten heavy the last few years. But the good news is the state's working hard to keep up, building new freeways and improving infrastructure to handle the boom. We've got a new West Corridor freeway that's just opened, and that's definitely helped, especially in those high commute times. Still, if you hate construction, it's definitely something to consider, at least in terms of where you want to look at moving in Utah, as it's not going to stop anytime soon.
In terms of home prices, like we said, as we've had a lot of more relocations happening and more people wanting to live in the city to cut down on their commute times, home prices have definitely gone up in the last few years. With our stable economy and our amazing outdoor activities, Utah has really become a coveted place to live, and of course our home prices are going to be reflective of that. However, there are still a lot of great options in some lesser known areas or the surrounding cities outside of Salt Lake. The further you go either north or south, you can really come up to some really good deals on housing while still getting that same quality of life, especially if you're willing to commute to work a little bit.
Another heads up, the alcohol laws. Now, we have talked about this in several videos, but Utah does have some of the strictest liquor laws in the United States. I think if you are planning on moving here and you do like a drink, then it's just good to know what the laws are. So a couple of things. The legal limit here is under 0.05. So just make sure if you do like to have even a drink with dinner that you are getting a designated driver, whether that's your significant other, a friend, or an Uber. Another thing is the liquor stores are all state owned and you cannot buy wine or hard alcohol in grocery stores, only beer, which has a much lower alcohol content than most other states. The last thing to know is there is a distinct difference between bars and restaurants in Utah. And if you are designated a restaurant, a patron has to order food to order a drink. Also, only one drink is allowed per person at a time, and that's at either a restaurant or a bar. So it's really different from maybe what you're used to coming from a different state, and something to keep in mind if you are moving here to Utah. If you do like to just meet friends for a drink in the afternoon, make sure you are going to a bar and not a restaurant.
So air quality is going to be another thing that you're going to want to consider when you move here. So in the winter, the valleys, they can trap pollutants that create something called an inversion, especially if wildfires from other states blow smoke our way. We have done an entire video on this topic because it's such a big issue, but the government is constantly working on solutions. So they're definitely coming up with some things that they can do to help, with our air quality issues here. And hey, it's a great excuse to escape to the mountains like Park City or just take a quick trip somewhere else that is sunny.
And finally, there's the politics. Utah does lean conservative, though Salt Lake City offers a more progressive vibe. Whether you're left or right, or somewhere in between, people here generally just want to preserve what makes Utah great. If that's something you can get on board with, you'll probably feel at home here in Utah.
So is Utah right for you? It's definitely not for everyone, but for those who love a mix of stunning scenery, outdoor adventure, and a unique way of life, it's going to be hard to beat. If you're ready to make the move, we're here to help. Reach out anytime, call, text, or email, and let's chat about making Utah your new home.
We hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Picking where you'll call home is an important decision, and we would love to help you make that smooth transition here to Northern Utah. If you're looking to move to the Northern Utah area, we would love to help you out. Give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and until next time, we are keeping it real. Estate.